today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Chantel Cameron must defend her new world title against Sandy Ryan as Katie Taylor takes a step back at 39 years old. It's conceivable that we may have already seen Katie Taylor for the last time in a boxing ring, and as far as that, she can retire right now with her head held high, having done everything she's done for the sport of women's boxing. Over to Chantel, who has been upgraded to full WBC super lightweight world champion as Katie Taylor becomes a champion in recess. Cameron was the WBC interim champion at 140 and the mandatory challenger to the full title that Taylor held. The 39-year-old Taylor completed a trilogy of victories over Amanda Serrano in July and isn't expected to box again this year. Her new status as champion in recess means that while the world title can remain active at 140, the WBC would grant the Irish star a world title shot if she chooses to return to the division. And so now there are two champions in the super lightweight division. Chantel Cameron holding the WBC and Katie Taylor holding the other three, but she may soon have to vacate yet another alphabet title as she already has another mandatory installed in America's own Samantha Worthington, interim champion by way of the WBA. WBA might make a similar move to the WBC. Label Katie a champion in recess, afford her that same professional courtesy, and elevate Samantha to full WBA champion, giving Chantel someone to target beyond this recent order to fight Sandy Ryan. Cameron has been instructed to make her first defense of the title against British rival Sandy Ryan. I'm super proud to announce that I have today been named the new WBC Super Lightweight World Champion as I could continue to blaze a trail in women's boxing, Cameron stated, but it's not going to be easy. Sandy has been waiting for some years now to get her paws on Chantel Cameron, and now Chantel has to oblige her. I look forward to defending this title in the very near future. You can expect the fight between Chantel and Sandy to happen on Chantel's side of things, over there on MVP. I don't know if Sandy Ryan is still with Matchroom or not, but even if she is, I don't think Matchroom is going to get in the way. I don't think Matchroom would be a problem. They would allow Sandy to cross over for that opportunity. It does mean the prospect of a third fight between Cameron and Taylor, at least in the near term, has receded. In 2023, Cameron handed Taylor a first professional defeat, only for the Irish star to win their rematch, and thus they're 1-1 with each other with a need for a tiebreaker. But Katie might leave it there. Sort of bittersweet for Chantel, because while she did get to become a two-time super lightweight champion, we all know she wanted more than that. It wasn't just about the belt, it was about fighting Katie Taylor again, and for the longest time, for some years now, fighting Katie seems to have been the focus of all of Chantel's efforts. Bittersweet that she did get to become a champion again, but with the added caveat, she has to satisfy Sandy. She has to settle up with Sandy. Cameron has been on a run of 3 good wins since losing to Katie Taylor, picking up the WBC interim title as she pushed for a shot at the titles that she used to hold. WBC President Mauricio Suleiman explained that she, Katie Taylor, let us know she plans to take some time away from the ring to tend to personal matters. The fight she was obligated to take was against Chantel. By naming her a champion in recess, we will order Sandy Ryan to fight Cameron instead. A somewhat dubious decision on the part of the WBC because Sandy doesn't even campaign as a super lightweight. Her last fight was at welter, so how does she become a mandatory at junior welter? Listen, I like the fight. I love the fight. I'm not complaining, but I'm pretty sure that Chantel Cameron and her handlers are. How do we end up with Sandy Ryan as our mandatory when she doesn't even fight at this weight? In any event, Chantel Cameron versus Sandy Ryan has all the makings of a Fight of the Year candidate written all over it because they've both got a mean streak and they both don't like each other. They both wear their hearts on their sleeves. They don't hide their emotions. And in the past, in at least one instance, they don't hide their disdain, their dislike of each other. So getting them both in the same ring before this year is out is an added treat. Remember that this is an order and thus negotiations between the fighters has to take place in a timely fashion. They ain't got all the time in the world to make this thing happen, and they have to make it happen.
I'm looking forward to it.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, a couple of tweets from Gervonta Davis that have grabbed everyone's attention ahead of his joke fight with Jake.
We're gonna break this down into separate parts, separate segments, and focus on what's being said individually. Gervonta Davis said boxing definitely did a turn. It went from this side to that side, and this shit has no loyalty, so why should I care? I move accordingly. Boxing is dead.
Why would somebody who's gotten so much out of the sport of boxing say something like that? That boxing is dead. It's almost like you don't like the sport of boxing even though it made you what you are.
Got you to where you are. Since you're not smart enough to do anything else, let's be honest, if Gervonta Davis weren't a boxer of some kind, he'd likely be dead or in jail.
Or in a gay porno.
Why would he say, on the eve of his fight with Jake Paul, that boxing is dead?
If boxing is dead, for Gervonta Davis, I think it's dead in his heart and in his mind that he don't love this thing and he don't want it like some other fighters want it. There is a difference between a Terence Crawford and a Gervonta Davis, an Usyk and a Gervonta Davis, even a Shakur Stevenson and a Gervonta Davis.
So when you're good at something, and you know you're good, after a while, you want to know how good you are. Where do you stack up with the others? You wish to compete. That does not exist in Gervonta Davis. That mentality.
I don't want to keep hearing about how he's some tough inner-city street kid, the diamond in the rough. He's a piece of shit, and he's not even a competitor. He's not even a true sportsman. You can look past a lot of glaring character flaws. Blinded by an athlete's greatness as all of their drawbacks and character flaws exist in the shadow of what they did do and what they did accomplish. But Gervonta didn't accomplish anything.
So all of his character flaws are out in the open.
There's nothing to distract you from the piece of shit that he is and how big a coward.
Yeah, he's a fucking coward.
I believe that this is Floyd Mayweather's legacy in front of us. What he did in the sport that did have a lasting effect.
Remember, he was Gervonta Davis's mentor.
And remember that whatever Gervonta Davis thinks he knows about the sport of boxing likely came from Floyd. And Floyd's purview of the sport was to be so calculated and so strategic that it's almost not a sport at all.
I mean, this is what he taught these young guys. This is what he told them.
The weirdest thing about Floyd Mayweather is even he was not as careful and cautious as this younger generation is. But because this is what he told them and what he taught them, we get a Gervonta Davis.
Gervonta Davis don't love this thing. He don't love the sport of boxing. And he is not so confident in himself and his abilities that he wants to know how good he is. He wants to know, where does he stack up with the others, with his contemporaries? He doesn't want to know.
That is simply not how a confident fighter composes themselves. That is not how a confident and capable fighter behaves. We have ample examples of fighters who believe in themselves and believe in their boxing and their teams. They believe in them. They don't shy away from challenges. Gervonta always has.
Boxing is dead.
Yeah, maybe for Gervonta Davis. It's dead in his mind. It's dead in his heart.
Boxing is dead.
And I believe that that is Floyd Mayweather's real legacy. What he left behind for the next generation. A select few that don't view boxing as a sport, as a competition, and they themselves don't have a competitor's mentality. All they want to do is take.
They view it as a scam, sort of a bank heist, like Floyd Mayweather often describes it.
But this perverse purview of the sport of boxing is not universal. To many other fighters out there, very great ones, boxing is still a sport, and boxing is the avenue that allows them to display their greatness and what they're great at.
Boxing is what changed their lives, and they view it with a bit more veneration than, say, a Floyd Mayweather, or, in this instance, a Gervonta Davis.
He doesn't love this thing. He never did. So when he says that boxing is dead, I think he's speaking for himself. I think if it's dead for anyone, it's dead for him, because it's not dead for Naoya Inoue.
It's not dead for a younger generation of fighters in the Far East that may be looking up to him instead of a Gervonta Davis.
It's not dead for a younger generation of fighters in Eastern Europe that may be looking up to an Usyk.
And not a Gervonta Davis.
A younger generation of Mexican fighters that maybe look up to Canelo in spite of all his flaws and his drawbacks, that you win some and you lose some. He still accomplished quite a bit and made a lot of money in the process. A younger generation of Mexican fighters may be looking up to him not Gervonta.
And maybe a younger generation of American fighters may be looking up to a Terrence Crawford, not a Gervonta Davis, as Gervonta Davis has no redeemable qualities. As a man, outside of the ring, or as a competitor, inside of the ring, he never proved he was the best in show. He never proved he was the baddest man on the planet. He did anything and everything to avoid every formidable fighter in his era.
So what is there to look up to? I mean, what is there to aspire to?
You're a young fighter. What are you going to learn from Gervonta Davis? How to avoid everybody?
Is that it? Keep your head in the sand, avoid any real challenge long enough that you can sell your soul to a social media influencer. Is that the blueprint? Is that the strategy?
He's going to end up broke down in a gutter just like Broner. It's only a matter of time. He thinks he's making off like a bandit.
He's going to end up just like Adrian Broner. Give it time, so that when he does, he won't have a legacy to fall back on, to capitalize on, to franchise. Because he keeps having a go at his own fans, his own supporters, may not have any of those to fall back on either.
He's gonna end up another broken down boxer. You'll see.
He thinks that boxing is dead. And long after he's gone, what he's gonna find out is boxing moves on. You're not the center of the universe and you never were.
The show must go on, and the show always does go on. Without you.
You were never that good to begin with. That's why your career had to be this way.
That's the only reason I want to fight him. You know what I mean? He's got nothing I want, and even when he had the belt, the fight was easy to be made, and he dodged me. You know what I mean? He took the easy way. He thought he was going to beat Zerto. You know, he wanted to generate more money before he lost to me. So, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? But I believe he's a respectable fighter, Chris Smith. You know, I believe he's a great fighter, and I believe the way I beat him, and when I do beat him, they'll be like, this guy's good, and then it'll just uplift the fight even more.
That is Jai Opetaia addressing the potentiality of a fight with former champion Chris Smith. I don't even know if that's going to happen, to be honest with you, because Jai is currently under orders to satisfy his mandatory challenger, Hussein Cinkara.
Initially postponed to make way for a Chris Smith fight, but now it looks to be back on for the end of this year. In December, the IBF Cruiserweight title fight between Jai Opetaia and his mandatory challenger Hussein Cinkara is expected to be confirmed for December 6th in the Gold Coast, Australia. They were previously on course to fight at the same venue in November, as had been confirmed by his manager and co-promoter, Mick Francis of Tasman, but a postponement means that they will instead finally fight approaching a year after when they were first scheduled to. The 30-year-old Opetaia dramatically stopped David Naika in January at the Gold Coast Convention Center after Naika replaced Cinkara when injury ruled the German out. The IBF then proceeded to order a fight between them again after Opetaia's win in June over Claudio Sequeiro and the 40-year-old Cinkara defeating in April Juan Diaz. Since the IBF's intervention, Francis had speculated about a potential move to heavyweight to fight Derek Chisora, or Opetaia instead fighting Britain's Chris Smith. Cinkara is regardless on course to be Opetaia's third opponent of this year, before he pursues a potential unification with Gilberto Zerto Ramirez next year. There's plenty of time for both teams to get ready and get this fight out of the way, Francis previously said, on the proposed date of November 2nd. Hopefully Jai and Justice Huni, the heavyweight, on the undercard, can have an opportunity towards the back end of the year to have another fight, because they both deserve it. They need it. They need to stay active. Keep these guys moving. We're aiming for that, and we're going to get Ramirez early next year, Opetaia of Australia recently told Boxing Scene. So, of the potentiality for a Chris Smith fight that now seems to be on the back burner, I was not a proponent of that fight. I was not a proponent of putting Cinkara on hold to face Chris Smith voluntarily, because even if you beat him, you're still going to have to fight Cinkara after that. And that could be a potential impediment to a Zerto Ramirez fight. So, for wasting time on Chris, just get Hussein out the way, so when next year gets here, you're free to unify. There's no point in fighting Chris now. He ain't got nothing that you need, nothing that you want. If the priority is Zerto just keep the way clear for Zerto.
Tasman Fighters' promotional rivals in Australia, No Limit Promotions, are also planning for the welterweight Liam Paro, who like Opetaia has been fighting in Queensland, to swiftly follow his recent win over David Pepot with another fight before the end of this year. Those are the two biggest and best outfits in the land down under, Tasman Fighters and No Limit Promotions.
Now, I have long maintained that unless it's for a major fight, a unification, Jai Opetaia should stay domestic, stay boxing in front of a hometown crowd so that he can build his celebrity down there like Tim Kazoo did. Now, granted that he doesn't have the Nepo baby angle, he's not the son of a famous boxer like Tim is. That did help Timothy greatly at the start of his career, that he was the son of famed boxer Kostya Zoo. Jai doesn't have anything like that working for him, but that doesn't mean he can't carve out a lane of his own and build a brand of his own.
I think that currently, Jai is Australia's only male world champion. He can parlay that into a lot of marquee value, a lot of success. There is a growing desire to see Jai Opetaia in there with better competition than David Naika or Sequeyo, these kinds of people, but through no fault of his own, the unification process has been rather slow. Progress
has been slow. It's not Jai Opetaia's fault that Chris Billum-Smith and Zerto Ramirez chose to fight each other instead of fighting him. It's not Jai Opetaia's fault that Zerto Ramirez had to have surgery on his shoulder.
It's not Jai Opetaia's fault that the World Boxing Council ordered Badu Jack to have a rematch with former champion Noel Mikhailian. None of this is Jai Opetaia's fault, and in that situation, there's nothing he can do to speed up the process. All he can do is stay busy, stay active, and stay fighting, and that's what he's doing, so I can't complain.
And I'm not mad. If they can squeeze in another Jai Opetaia fight, another Jai Opetaia shellacking, I'll be happy to watch it, because this guy's a menace.
He's a maniac. Look at his eyes. The hope is, if he takes care of Hussein before this year is out, the way is clear next year to unify titles with somebody, anybody.
Do you think that Jai will be Zerto Ramirez's first fight off of shoulder surgery?
I'm skeptical, but if Jai is fighting in December, and Zerto returns in the first quarter of next year, they can then meet each other in the spring.
And let's hope that's the way that it happens.